Okay, we live?
We're live.
At 11:05. Here we are, 2 days in a row. We're doing pretty good. Good guys were here yesterday. It was fun. A lot of people were around the shop, kind of forced us to clean up a little bit, so I took advantage of that and told everybody it's a new standard. Now we want to improve from here. Looking at some of the cars out there. Did I say I'm VC with Spirit Cars? We're live at 11:05, and Josh, the voice of Spirit Cars, behind the camera. There he is. Okay, got that out of the way. So they're out there. We had quite a few cars, nice cars. So this is a story I've told here quite a bit, and I'm going to tell it one more time. This may be the last time, or maybe not. How many people remember Evel Knievel? Raise your hand. He'd jump over a couple buses. We'd all get excited, or he'd jump over a few cars and crash a lot and get hurt big time. And we thought that was pretty cool. Or when you had a skateboard when you were a kid. I'm like 60 years old. And there was, believe it or not, there was skateboards back then. But if you could make it down the hill without crashing, you were like, you know, doing good there. And we've come to the point where now these motorcycles are jumping back and forth, 3 at a time, crossing each other, doing flips and crazy things, and just multiple. And same with skateboarding. It's just got to the point where they're doing these crazy things you would never thought was even possible years ago. Point of that story, looking at these cars out there, some of the cars that are iconic cars, great customizing, great builders from the day, wouldn't even get a second look at today's car shows, local car shows. We have come so far forward, just like the days of Evel Knievel. He pushed the envelope, but now it's gone so much farther. Same way with hot rodding and the quality of the cars. Looking at these cars that were here yesterday, these were drivers. These people were on a 6-day, 2,000-mile
Yes.
trip, part of Good Guys, and interviewed Ed from Good Guys on yesterday's show. You might want to see that. It's a great organization. We used to do their shows a lot when we were on the road more. We just kind of stay home and build hot rods now. But those cars in the parking lot yesterday were beautiful cars. I mean, exceeded the standards of 20 years ago by 10 times. And those were drivers. That's not even trailer queens. And trailer queen is not a derogatory term. When you put so much time and effort into creating a show car, a work of art, I mean, you just don't. If I got a handful of nice rings or whatever, I don't come work in them. I mean, it's the way it is. So if you build a car to that level, you know, why would you not expect to take the utmost care of it in its transportation and its preparation for showing and everything else? Quality's gotten a lot better, but the principles are the same. And today, the Blue Moon's coming together. It's almost not too far. There's a couple cars here not too far from firing up. But when you get the windshield wipers in, and you don't get a lot of choices for windshield wipers. There's some mechanical ones that have a cable that come down, and you can put the motor under the dash. But if you got an electric wiper motor, it's probably all made in the same factory in China. What do you think?
Yeah.
I think they're all the same. No matter who sells them, it's the same. You can shop price and probably get the same thing. You know, I like to deal with one company that you get good service with, but nonetheless, it's kind of a universal thing. I'm not going to go into the wiring today. If you can read a schematic, you can figure it out. But it's got 4 wires. There are 3 wires. I'm sorry. Where you only need 2 wires to make it go back and forth, and you can switch it in the switch to get the direction going. But you've got an extra wire here so that the motor stays running until it comes to a stopping point. So when you turn your wipers off on the switch, they don't stop right where they're at. They stop when they get back up to the place you have it set to stop. So again, deal with that in a schematic when you get the wipers. I think going over it right now is not going to be that helpful anyway. But be aware that it does have the 3rd wire, which leaves the motor engaged until it gets to where it's supposed to stop. We get a little package of rubber parts and a washer and a cover and a nut on there. It goes onto it. Nothing says that you are going to be where you mount it from here to where you want your wiper is going to be that length. I mean, it's a random, kind of a random thing. Oh, and Josh is, if he's missing the picture, if he's not getting it, we figured out. Are you using this or no?
No.
Did you not just get it on?
Yeah, I got it on, but no one's saying anything.
Okay. Let's try this in the future though.
Yeah.
He can take my phone instead of having another computer set up. He'll just turn my phone on, watch it. It'll be just a couple second delay. So you'll be watching exactly the same thing that Josh is watching. So if you ask a live question, then he can either ask it or answer it online while he's doing it, or he can ask me or whatever. So we're not doing it today, but we'll try it tomorrow, see how it works. We tried it yesterday, it worked pretty good. So anyway, nothing says this needs to be this length. If you don't want this, if this is the end of where it comes through, I want just enough to get my nut and my washer and all the rubber on it. I don't want it sticking that far out, and have to put my wiper way out here and the glass is down here. That don't work. So there's a threaded, like I would say, collar around this. If you need to make it shorter, make it shorter. Just carefully take you could take a cut-off wheel or something and cut around it. You could take a hacksaw, cut around it, pull it off. Don't cut through the shaft though. Then once you get this cut off to where you need it, it's probably not a bad idea to put the nut on it first, far below where you want to cut it, and that way when you can get it cut, you can take that nut off and it kind of cleans the ends of the threads up, and that's probably should be all you need to do on that. Then your shaft will be too long, once you get that fitted down, and you're going to probably need the same space. You can see it's, what is that, 3/4 of an inch or something like that. Make sure your shaft is that much longer than the collar and you're good to go. The way this goes on to here, it's just a bolt that squeezes the collar, and you squeeze the collar on there. I got to loosen the bolt a little bit and then it goes on. But so as I tighten the bolt, then that would squeeze that collar. The length of this arm, it is what it is. You can see it's got a little pin on there where your wiper was going to slide onto that, and it'll go onto that. A lot of times a wiper like this, the purpose of it is to, I know Good Guys was here yesterday, and I don't know about their 28-point inspection or whatever, but NSRA has an inspection. If you don't have a wiper on, they dink you. You don't get the thing. You don't get the safety test pass. You could do a hand wiper on some of them, and there's hand wipers available. But Rain-X does a pretty good job too, and you got a real nice car, and you're probably not going to drive in the rain, but you don't want to get caught in the rain without something that's going to keep the water off from being a big, a mask on your window. You have to try to see through it. This, at least on, this is the Model A back here that we're putting for Larry, is not going to work on the window. This, let's go to the car here for a second. If you look at the wiper here, why don't you go on this side over here? Look up under there. Now I've got this loose. I've not tightened this nut up on the collar, and I would highly, highly, highly recommend that when this car will have the wipers on it before we, put get ready to start it and get all the wiring done. When you get all the wiring done and hook the battery up, leave that disconnected, because there's no guarantee where this motor is or where it's going to stop. So when you turn the wipers on, turn the wipers off, let this shaft get to where its stop position is. And then if you want both your wipers aiming the same direction, deal with that. You can turn the thing over however you do it, switch the wires. If you want them both aiming the same direction, or you want them aiming opposite, or however you want it. But if you look at this wiper, I have got to really dink that wiper down. If I'd left that wiper the size that it was, I'd have been scraping down on above the, I'd been scraping the cowl section here. So I had to go above the molding. And I had to dink the top a little bit too, because when it comes all the way up, you can see it's right up to the molding. So you don't get a lot of wiping area, but it is getting a wiper in there, and and it works. So I've left this one, I've kind of got this one installed. Again, if you can look up on top here, you can kind of see that it's a pretty big angle. The windshield's straight, the wiper mounted behind here is coming out at a 90, but on the top of this Model A, this angles out coming this way. So in these pieces, the rubber grommets are, I'll pull one out here. You can see this is straight all the way around. You can't even see I'm twisting that. It's black, I'm sure, but I'm twisting it around. You're seeing all angles of it. And the same with this piece. You know, it's the same width all the way around it, and there's a little rubber piece in there. There's a couple other rubber pieces in here. Just because they give you all these parts does not mean you have to use all these parts. What you're wanting to do is make a seal between the body and the collar of the wiper itself, and have the nut come just like you would want any nut to go tight against it, and maybe leave 2 or 3 threads past the nut. You don't need to have, you know, a dozen threads or 2 inches of threads out there. What I had to do on this one to make it fit, and you can see I've not pulled this tight yet all the way, but you can see it's tight on the body, and I've got the bolt on straight. It's not cross-threaded, and this is on straight. And so the wiper arm is coming out at a 90 here, even though that looks like it's bent a little bit. It's just not on totally tight. But when it gets on tight, it'll go 90 to the window. So to accomplish that, I had to take it over. I took a little die grinder that I have, or a little mini grinder, 3-inch grinder, and I just beveled that. I turned it from basically nothing to, you know, all the way, angled it up, and that still wasn't enough. So I had to take my chrome collar, and I ground down a little bit of the chrome collar also to make that into an angle that would fit. And I like what I got. When I tighten that nut on there, I'm going to be pretty happy. It'll all be sealed. There'll be a couple little washers or little rubber grommets I won't need to use. I have one installed, one fit. I've got one that I didn't put in yet. Let me show you that. You can probably show through the car there. A couple things. You're going to want to hide the wipers. You can see this is a little bit gnarly looking up here. We put a pretty wide board here. Now, if we didn't have any board or just a skinnier board, I would have had to cut this down like I was telling you a little earlier. But in this case, I've got it, I put it up there, and I've got just the right width of the threads coming out with everything going together, and I didn't need to cut this. So we accomplished that. We've done it before, so we kind of knew how wide we needed the board up here, and so we got that. First thing I did was drill the hole through the top, straight out. It's very important. I mean, some drills have levels on it, but it's very important that you're going in at your level, going in at 90, and you're not cocked one way or another. You don't want this thing to go in here and be cocked and have this not, you know, being in there sideways or sideways. You want it straight on to get against it. You can see it at the end of the collar. It gets a little wider down in there. It's got these 4 screws that hold the pieces together. So what I've done, and then on this particular one, I needed to go high enough to make sure I cleared my my molding on the outside, which actually you can see up. Can you see this up here? I had to notch my ceiling. I've got a 1/2-inch piece of nitacore in there, but I had to notch that so that my wiper would go up tight against it. I put my wiper in, marked it around the edge, and when I took my little die grinder, and I also beveled this going in here. So this is kind of beveled going in. So now when I push this up tight, I'm tight against that, and this little tab right here, which holds the wiper up on this side, and then the bolt on the other side pulls it tight on the other side, or the nut, I'm sorry. Put it in there. My tab is tight, and you can kind of see over on this side. Can you see the washer of the screw? All I did was run a screw in on that side, and it's tight. This one's all fitted, ready to go. Fits in there. I'll run my wires back down around. That's something you just really need to be aware of. There's a lot of detail work. And in talking about earlier the whole Evel Knievel story, and the quality of the cars, you just can't rush through any part of the project. It's about the details. It's about really cleaning up. I mean, just looking at this backing for the gauges here. I mean, back in the day, this stuff wasn't even available. Now it's just every day get it off the shelf, and the quality is nice, and no matter how good you do it, it can always be better. So take care, watch the details. Larry wanted to see the wipers going on, so there you go. You got to see wipers getting installed on your own car. We'll have them going, and got the looms ready to go. So we're not too far away from firing this thing up. Interior's already been made for it, so it'll all snap in. Just because they did the wiring now, or I'm not sorry, the windshield wipers now, and that seemed like it was just one component of the job. You really need to think after that part. Where am I going to put the switch? Am I going to get my wires down to that switch and around and connect it to A, the fuse block, so I got power going there, and then B, to the wipers, and then C, to the switch that's going to turn them on. Where's all that going to be? Where's the wires going to go? Is it going to be under the upholstery? Is it going to go up through here or around there? Is that switch going to be in the way of something else I wanted to do? There's a lot of components. Really try to think through it. You don't have to pre-plan your entire car, but you do at least need to be aware of the components that are going to be in that area. And you know, when you're wiring, everything that gets wired is going to be part of that section. And whether it be the horns or the headlights or we got the cool spreader bar here with lights in it, or tail lights, or a dome light, or I mean, you just got to think about all that and be ready to just continue to move forward when you get to that part. And that doesn't happen if you didn't pre-think it. You're going to be moving back a lot, and then it gets a little frustrating sometimes if that happens too much. I think I described windshield wipers. We have some. Can we sell some? We'll just sell some. We're as fair as some other big companies.
We don't have any, do we?
Oh, well, we might. We have them. We can have them in a couple days. Yeah, we got a few pair, but they're going on cars. What do we get for $50? $50 for that wiper. It's an electric wiper. It comes with all the parts and gadgets that you just seen in it. So we do offer that kind of stuff. So if you want to call us about that, we can supply that kind of stuff, and make sure you get a little wiring. It doesn't come in the box that it comes from China with, but make sure you get a little wiring diagram how that works. So let's pick I didn't get enough coffee today, so let's just do a coffee break contemplation. Buddy of mine, Ernie Gilcrease, the hot rod man, wrote these couple books, and they're just kind of words of wisdom. A step in the right direction brings happiness, but a step in the wrong direction brings sorrow and confusion. Thoughtful steps help one's life. Thoughtful steps fill one's life with happiness and joy. That's a good one for today. That's an excellent one for today. So it's not just part of how you build your car. I mean, you think ahead, make the right steps. It's going to get there, and you'll be happier about the journey. In life, too, think about it a little bit. Make the right steps, because you start going the wrong direction, it's going to be sorrow, and it's not going to be a good thing. So that's it for today. We still got Friday, right?
Yes.
So we'll come up with something tomorrow. I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow, but we'll have something, and we'll see you tomorrow.